All right, hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we have a special episode. The reason this one's special isn't, well, I guess Alec, you're actually our like truest of guests, where you come on with a specialty in something we're going to talk about. I think.
Yeah.
You're our number one professional in their field.
I thought you were just gonna say Alex is really special.
That would also be fair.
No, but we usually do our 3-person circle where we interview people, but obviously Dax is away at Gladiator. That's not obvious, but that's where he is.
That's pretty cool.
And so we're bringing back Let's Talk, which is just we talk. Like our other ones.
Break it down for me.
So our guest today is Alec Sproule. He's brought us some rocks. He is a geologist. You are a miner. When you said I'm a miner, I thought that was super cool. With an ER.
Right. Yeah. I have gotten older since the last time we talked. I do work in mines. Yeah.
Alec, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just for the viewers, I have a feeling you'll probably be on this quite a few times. So Alec is a very, very accomplished soccer player. That's how we met, is through soccer, via our soccer team. After he'd made his accomplishments, let's just make that.
I know, playing with the Wilderness, that was the first league title I'd won in a long time. So maybe not all, but
fair. But anyhow, today we are in to talk about your job. You just finished your dissertation, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I just finished my master's in geology with a focus in sedimentology from SFU. Simon Fraser University, for those outside of BC.
Okay.
You focus in sedimentology.
That's right.
That just sounds fancy as fuck.
Right? I mean, I'm going to put that on business cards.
Absolutely.
But it's, so, you know, for those listening, there are three broad types of rocks that we use to classify it as sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic. So sedimentary rocks are basically as other rocks break down into small pieces and are then formed into other rocks. You know, think of like a sandstone or a mudstone, or like a conglomerate. That's a sedimentary rock. Igneous rocks are rocks that are either intrusive or extrusive volcanic. So it's either lava or magma that's cooled above or below ground.
Oh, okay.
And that's like kind of a raw type of rock. It comes right out of the earth. And then the third type, metamorphic, can be originally either a sedimentary or an igneous rock that's been exposed to like pressure and heat and time. So it's either been buried or, you know, it's been in a really mountain building environment where there's a lot of pressure and change going on, and that gets basically turned into a different kind of rock from what it was originally.
Crazy. So is that like, I guess I'm like a diamond, like not always, but that idea of like pressure making it into something new, or is that kind of an extreme case?
So I mean, the way diamonds form is under pressure and at high temperatures that allows the ingredients to form in a specific way. But metamorphic rocks is not just about like one mineral, it's the whole body of rock changing due to pressure and heat.
Okay. This is something that I've been, ever since you've confirmed you're coming on, I've been kind of racking my brain with. The idea of like, okay, so you're going out into the field, right?
Yeah.
So when you go out into the field, let's say you're looking for like, I don't know, like a gold mine or something, like just whatever mineral you're looking for. Are you like, how do you go about doing that just in general? I have like literally no clue, because I'm just picturing like the super generic, like someone's like, oh, there's some gold up north, like I don't know what they actually
Yeah, it's a good question, because like you think back to when like a lot of the gold rushes were, they were like 19th 18th century kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, well, how did they know, how did they go out and find this stuff? And it still happens today, and a lot of it can be pretty rudimentary, pretty basic stuff. Like a good way to find gold, for example, is in rivers, because as it washes out of the host rock, it'll get carried to a point, and then because gold is so heavy, you know, say a river has a rapid section, then it calms down.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the gold will deposit itself at the end of the rapids because the river won't have enough momentum after that to carry it. So if you come across a river, that's why panning for gold is a thing, right?
Right.
Because all the gold ends up in the river, and people think, okay, well, what if we work backwards from that? How did the gold get in the river, and why did it stop here? So they think, okay, well, it must have come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So they follow the river back up until they find the parent rock that the gold is actually coming out of.
Crazy.
And then they're like, okay, so gold is associated with this type of rock, or like this type of fracture. And then they say, okay, well, where do we see this elsewhere? And they kind of just go like that.
Right.
So a lot of gold rushes started where it was like, okay, we're panning for gold in this random river. Hey, shit, I found a whole bunch of like gold flakes. Like, where did these come from? You know, and then it kind of just builds from there. So
That's
and
so
it still
crazy.
happens.
It's so crazy, yeah, because like is it possible this I guess this is already a crazy question to ask, but like say is
ready.
it possible for you to be, because you're working for a company, right? Is it possible for you to be going out and you discover something, like you're like, yo, I find, again, for lack of something else, I found gold, and then that's your claim? Or is it like everything you do is under the claim of a company you're working for?
So there's a couple of different ways to go about it. Unfortunately, in my job, we don't do any exploration. So we're a management company. So we do consulting for mines that are already in operation. So we manage their storage facilities for their waste rock and like byproducts in the mine operation. But there are jobs where you can go out and essentially be a prospector. Like I know guys who are in that field,
Cool.
and they get dropped off in like way up in the northern Yukon, and they're like, okay, the rock or the water in this section of the river has been dyed red by something. We think it's, you know, an iron oxide, which might be related to like pyrite, which is often associated with copper deposits. So
Whoa.
go out and we'll drop you here. Here's a
crazy.
surface geology map. See what you can find.
Crazy.
You know, and you can do that yourself. Like on Vancouver Island, you can buy like a claim. You can stake a claim like in the old days, and you get like a 30-meter section of riverbank, and that's your claim, and you can work it. Right, and people still go out and do that,
That's
which is why you should always be
nuts.
super careful when you're walking around in the woods. And you're like, hey, I found this cool rock, because you could get shot by these people. Right?
That's
You're on my
wild.
claim. That's my gold.
That's my rock.
They're like, I've just been waiting here to shoot someone that tries to take it.
Seriously, when I was doing my fieldwork for my thesis, I spent a lot of time in northern Vancouver Island hiking up and down rivers, because it's a good way to find like outcrop exposures, because the water cuts down and exposes the rock
Right.
layers,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
you get all the layers.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'll be walking through the river, and people will come out and be like, what are you doing on my land? And he's like holding a baseball bat. And I'm like, well, you don't actually own the river. Like, the river is public land. And he's like, I don't care. I'm going to hit you with this baseball bat. So,
Holy shit.
yeah, you do have to be
People-
careful
Yeah,
with it.
they're really protective over their rocks, huh?
For sure. As they should be.
Yeah, so okay, with your thesis, what, like, when you're going up and you're writing it, what exactly are you doing in terms of, like, you said the field work for it? What is that?
So when you do, it's a little bit different when you do a PhD, but when you do a master's thesis, which is what I did, you reach out to a professor or a researcher, and they already have a project in mind. They're like, okay, I have grad students working in, you know, Vancouver Island, for example, which is where I was, on this specific formation or this group of formations or whatever. We're trying to get a better understanding of all of this stuff. So when I reached out to my supervisor, we talked, and he said, oh, I'm thinking about bringing you on. Like, this is the scope of the project. And he said he was looking at sedimentary rocks on Vancouver Island and how that related to different West Coast sedimentary basins. Like, were these rocks a part of what's called the Georgia Basin, which is like Nanaimo, Comox, Vancouver kind of area? Or are they part of the Queen Charlotte Basin, which is like up in Haida Gwaii, which is also a fantastic place to visit.
Love Haida Gwaii.
But,
Well, I've never been. I just love the thought of it.
I've been. It's beautiful. It's well worth the trip. But yeah, it was basically this little package of sedimentary rocks that were near Port Hardy on Vancouver Island. And he said, we don't know which basin they're a part of. They've been assigned here and given this age, but we're not really sure. We've got some new age dating techniques. Go and check it out. Go and see what's up there.
Yeah.
So basically, what I did was I was based out of Port Hardy for 12 weeks in a caravan park, which was an
Nice.
interesting
I was
experience.
gonna say that's a podcast in itself. Caravan
Just-
Diaries.
Just me losing my mind. No, it was weird. It was owned by a dentist from Vancouver. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, so every day, me and my field assistant, we basically went out and hiked around in the bush for 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day to see if we could find any outcrops. And then we would log it. So we would do like a visual description. We would we'd take all the notes we could and then collect samples where we thought we could get like a radiometric age.
Right.
And we did that for 12 weeks,
That's
which
amazing.
was sick.
Okay, so this is one thing. So carbon dating all has to do with organic materials, right?
Carbon dating does for sure.
So
but
when
we
you're-
weren't doing carbon dating.
Yeah. So, but when you're doing what did you call it? What kind of dating?
Radiometric dating.
Is that accurate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's because what the reason I was wondering is because like whenever you start dealing with like things, let's say like the pyramid, they can't properly date it because the organic material or something is there.
Right.
But they can date the rock knowing when the rock was formed, right? Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So carbon dating, if I have my numbers right,
Yeah.
works to about 50,000 years ago.
Okay.
Radiometric dating can be used essentially back to the age of the Earth.
Holy, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Is it like counting the rings in a tree?
Just 50 million rings.
Like that's
would be
what
a
I'm
lot of
picturing right now.
We
But
can
like,
use the AI for that, right?
how do you actually
So
date it?
the way it breaks down is the reason that I'm going to cop some flack for this, but the reason we know that the Earth is older than, some people say it's 6,000 years old, is that lead exists.
Wait, who's saying the Earth? Oh.
Yeah. Right. So we know that the...
I was so confused then.
So we know the Earth is older than 6,000 years because lead exists.
For the sake of the podcast, we'll agree, yes.
Wait, how old is lead?
So I'm getting to that.
7,000 years old.
Obviously.
6.5.
6,001. It was a rounding error. No, so the way radiometric dating works is you take an unstable isotope. So, for example, something like uranium.
Yeah.
And in my case, it was uranium-235, which has a half-life of... I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Do you actually need it?
No. It's
something
pretty
big.
broad strokes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, a couple of 100 million years or something. So what that means is, say the half-life is 100 million years. If you have 10 pounds of uranium-235, after 100 million years, you will have 5 pounds of uranium-235 and 5 pounds of lead. Because the uranium decays, it loses, it's radioactive, right? So it loses electrons and neutrons, and it decays into lead.
Whoa.
Wow,
So then after another 100,000 years, that 5 pounds of uranium will have turned into 2.5 pounds of uranium, and you'll have 7.5 pounds of lead.
And there's
Right?
like quite a bit
That's
of lead on the
crazy.
Right?
planet
There's
right
a ton
now.
of lead.
There's lead in everything.
That's
I
right.
swear.
Don't eat any fish. But so basically what we do is to date sedimentary rocks is we look for minerals that contain uranium and lead. So in my case it was zircon, which are these neat little crystals. I'll have to show you a picture, but they're present in sedimentary rocks, and if you can prove that there's a volcanic source close by, that's about the same age as the sedimentary rocks, you can say, okay, these zircons were formed at approximately the same time that they were deposited in this sandstone. Right? So I collect that sandstone, I do a whole bunch of physical and chemical processes to break that sandstone down until all I have left is the zircon crystals.
Okay.
Then we can fire a laser at those crystals and get a spectrograph of all the constituent minerals, right? So it's like this much silicon, this much carbon, this much argon, this much lead, this much uranium. And by looking at the ratio of the lead and uranium, we can determine how old that crystal is.
Holy.
And therefore we can determine how old that rock is.
How long has this been
cool.
lasers being used to do this stuff? Is this like a relatively new thing, or is this like 50 years old?
As far as I know, it's been around for several decades.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
back
It's
into,
not it's not like brand new.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we've had an understanding of like radioactive decay since like the early 20th century, right? Like with
Right.
Einstein and those kind of guys. But,
Right, that
well,
guy.
Rutherford did the model of the atom, but
So you were so correct me if I'm wrong, but there's I don't know if it's like a ton, but there are a few underwater volcanoes along the coast of Vancouver, right? We're on two tectonic plates, the
That's right.
Pacific and the
Juan de Fuca.
one. Is that what it's
One
called?
Fuca.
I
It
don't know.
is the
this is I'm bringing back I'm really throwing myself back to high school geography right now.
That's pretty good high school geography.
Thank you. I really wanted to be a biologist at one point, but I for some reason that stuck in my mind is that I know that there's a ton of tectonic plates along the Pacific here, like going down to Seattle, Oregon, and that's why we're expecting the big one, earthquake-wise.
I hate to say that.
But I knew that there's like underwater volcanoes, right? So is that what in relation to the sediment forming where you were looking? Would that be because of those underwater volcanoes, or?
That's a really great question.
Oh, I've just made a discovery here. Call me Mr. Rock.
Wait, did you discover a new ocean?
No, it's a good question because that's absolutely true. There is a lot of volcanic and tectonic activity in this part of the world. Like we're on one of the edges of the Pacific Ring of Fire, right?
Yeah.
So, we're talking about deep time. So the rocks that I'm looking at were between sort of 58 and 70 million years old. And right? That's the right reaction, because even having done all of this work and worked around rocks for such a long time, like it's impossible to conceptualize what that number means.
Yeah.
It's so long ago that it doesn't even matter.
I've been trying to build a timeline for the last year of just history, just all of it, not like literally every moment, but just kind of like I don't know, like where the Byzantines were versus the Romans, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that's all within what like let's say like
it's like a snap of the fingers.
Yeah,
in
it's like 5,000-6,000 years, and then you're like 32 billion or million. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So like I think anthropologists kind of agree that modern humans, as we would consider them, first appeared around 1 million years ago. Right. And we've had electricity since like the 20s. Like 100 years. Yeah, if you're lucky.
There's the weird thing going on right now that we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, which is AI, quantum computing, all that crazy stuff, right? And then there's still places that haven't entered the second, which is electricity and running water, which is like, it's really weird to think of that dichotomy.
Yeah, the division.
Yeah.
And
Disparate rates of growth for sure. But just, sorry, to go back to Neve's question. So, like, the way North America and the West Coast especially has formed is, like, it's been described as the bulldozer North America. So if you go to, like...
Damn straight!
Derek, you've been east of the Rockies, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you go to Saskatchewan, Manitoba, like, Ontario, it's all of those rocks out there are super old. Like, they're, like, on the order of 2 billion years old.
That's the Canadian Shield, right?
And it's called the North American Craton. And it's basically when land first emerged... Well, maybe not first emerged. I'm not going to say that because I don't have a source. But as old as I can think of that there's been land, North America has been this one piece.
Right.
And in the last couple of 100 million years, it's been moving west. And as it's moved west, it's basically collected or run over different island chains which were formed by volcanoes in the ocean. So like Vancouver Island has not always been this close to North America. Basically, if you go to Cache Creek.
Okay, yeah.
170 million years ago, Cache Creek was 1,000 kilometers off the west coast.
What?
And North America just ran it over.
Damn straight we did.
So what you end up with is like, it's called the Canadian Cordillera, and it's this massive mountain building chain that's built the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
Because the continent just keeps moving west, and everything just gets smashed up against it and pushed up into the sky.
And that makes so much sense why then our mountains look great until you see the Rockies, and then you're like, oh, they've been dwarfed, because you're like, well, the Rockies, I'm assuming, are getting like pushed up as it all like smushes closer.
Absolutely. So that where the Rockies are basically delineates the edge of that original craton. Okay. So the rocks that are exposed in the Rockies are up to like 720 million years old.
Oh, so those are different rocks than the ones that are on the coast
right
here. Oh, crazy.
Totally different.
Crazy.
So the thing, and people who know me and have talked with me about rocks, who are saints, very patient people.
Except Roger, he's not talking about you. Just in case
shout
you're
out to
Roger. Why did you bring him up? Now my evening's ruined. But...
Sorry. We can film it out or shoot another time.
No, but the rocks around here, like the mountains between Vancouver, well, actually even south of Vancouver, the Cascade Mountain chain, which goes down into Washington, Oregon, all the way up to like southern Alaska, it's all the same rocks. And the reason for that is they're all granodiorite.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, like Neve mentioned, that Juan de Fuca plate that's being pushed under the west coast, as it gets to like 60, 70 kilometers depth, it starts to melt.
Right.
And when it melts and dewaters, it starts to come back up.
What?
Which is why you've got like Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Mount Garibaldi, all of these volcanoes So the subduction zone is like what 100 kilometers west of Vancouver Island.
Something like
Seduction
that.
zone.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then
This stuff always stresses me out. We're gonna die.
not in Vancouver. Vancouver Island will protect us, but
Oh, thank God. It's only my family that lives out there. They'll protect us.
but yeah. So basically, outboard of Vancouver Island, you've got this oceanic plate getting pushed underneath. And where it melts and comes vertically straight back up is pretty much the coastline, which is why all these volcanoes are on the coast.
That I've never really looked at that. I wish we had a map up right now because that's so crazy. I always think it's so interesting, just natural geography like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's it's super interesting.
Yeah, so you've got these coast mountains, which, if I remember and I have to shout out one of my supervisory members here, Dan Gibson.
Dan Gibson, yeah.
Yeah.
You go, Dan.
If I remember correctly, the coast mountains in the last, 10 million years or so have risen by about 10 kilometers. But it's just the effects of constant cycles of glacial erosion that keep grinding them down to be the size that they are now.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you have all these, they're called plutons. All of the mountains are part of what's called the Coast Plutonic Complex. And a pluton is basically just an igneous body, so like a magma body that's been forced above the surface.
Whoa.
So every mountain between here and wherever, Alaska, is all the same history.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Just because of that subduction.
That's so cool.
Okay, the thing that I always think so weird with this stuff, I wish that, you know how everything is like your perspective on time? So like we're trapped in our time, so everything that happens with mountains is so slow.
Yeah.
It would be cool if you could step out and see the perspective of everything like growing. That
Oh,
would
just
be
have
awesome.
like a million-year-long time lapse.
Yeah,
of the mountains.
or on your phone it has like the precipitation and it has all the weather coming in. You can look at the 12 hours but it's like a million years. It predicts a million years of weather.
Okay, wait. I've got a question. I want to know what's the difference between a rock and a gem.
Oh, okay. So
And is there a difference? And why hasn't Derek put one on my finger yet?
Oh.
So I can answer two out of
Slam!
I can answer 2 out of 3 of those. The first one being Derek's a bitch.
But he doesn't know if it's a gem.
No, but that is a good question because I get asked a lot, like, what's the difference? Believe it or not, actually, always by my engaged friends. I don't.
Oh.
There you go.
By my engaged friends' partners, actually. It's what a weird coincidence.
This is awkward. I gotta go and leave the country forever.
Yeah, another one I get a lot is, hey, Alec, how do you prove something's a diamond?
Right?
Yeah, if it's too big, it's not a diamond.
Yeah, what do you mean my 1-inch cubed engagement ring isn't a real diamond? Yeah, so gemstones are like, it's a colloquial name for a mineral. And a mineral isn't a rock, technically. A rock constitutes like a bunch of minerals together.
Okay.
So a rock is made up of many parts. And to give you an example, here I've got a really nice...
show and tell.
I've got an igneous rock here, which is... A cool story behind this is my parents, during the pandemic, moved from my home state of New South Wales to Tasmania.
Oh, cool. Like the devil.
Yeah, exactly. So for those who don't know their Australian geography, the Tasmania is the state that's the island off the bottom right corner of Australia. They call it the Apple Isle because it looks like an apple.
Oh, okay.
And my parents, one of their town drinking buddies, is the foreman at the local mine.
That's what I love. I would prefer my local mine foreman be a drinking buddy.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, my parents thought so because they got me a bunch of rocks. But when we went to visit them down there a couple of years ago now, my dad had asked, "Oh, do you think it'd be cool if my son gets a tour of the mine? Like, he's a geologist, he does this and that and all this."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll get him underground." And I'm thinking, okay, cool. It's a copper mine. Oh, no, sorry, it was a tin mine.
Oh.
But they have a lot of these sulfide minerals, so like pyrite, chalcopyrite, arsenopyrite, arsenic.
All the pyrites.
All the fun, healthy minerals. But they're mining tin.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it's going to be a pit or something, or it's going to, like you see these big open holes in the ground, or, like you picture like a coal mine where it's tunnels, but they're shallow. They just kind of run
Right.
horizontally, not vertically down into the earth. And so I got there, and the guy's like, oh yeah, we got to go down to the active stope phase. I was like, oh cool, how far is the drive into the mine? He's like, oh, it's about 45 minutes.
Holy.
And I was like, well, 45 minutes, like, to get to the site? And he's like, no, you basically just drive this corkscrew down underground.
Holy shit.
So Derek, that rock you're holding, I got that at about 3.58 kilometers underground.
Wow.
Holy frajolies. Does it do when you go down? Does your ears pop?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, it's freaking hot. It was like 44 degrees and like
What?
It was hot,
because you're getting
salty
closer to the
air.
center of the earth.
Why salty?
Because water
Sweaty
underground
dudes.
is mostly salty. We're
Right.
well below any
I was
freshwater
gonna say
table.
sweaty dudes.
Tons of sweaty dudes, tons of sweaty dudes,
All
man.
these
Okay, I
sweaty
just want to
dudes.
describe to the people at home the rock. It's crazy because like underneath it, it looks kind of like your normal bluish gray rock, but it has everything has got a silver metallic to it that shines so cool.
And there's some more like goldy bits and some more like silvery bits.
I know. How would you
Some more-
describe it?
Yeah,
You probably
No,
actually-
that's a pretty good description. I mean, the goldy bits are pyrite, and
Pyrite.
more people would know pyrite than they're aware of because it's called fool's gold. If you've heard of that before,
Yeah,
Like, it's-
Actually,
yeah.
that's the rings made of.
yeah.
Makes sense.
Pyrite's a pretty common sulfide mineral, but so I was at the active mine face, so like literally as far as they dug. The humans delved more deeply and more greedily. There's a Lord of the Rings reference for Roger, but there were no Balrogs down
God
there.
damn it, Roger!
It was just pyrite. But to follow on from that, pyrite can have a couple of different forms, and I'm going to get these wrong, but it can either look like an 8-sided dice or it can be cubic.
Oh.
And I was just working at a job at a mine site in northern BC. It was about 35 kilometers southeast of Houston, BC, which is like an hour east of Smithers.
Okay,
If
yeah,
people can
I
kind of
know.
picture where that is, like
Yeah.
kind of halfway up, right in the middle of the province.
The problem with Smithers is there's nothing that's worthwhile there. So
They got a good ski field.
Okay, that's fair, I guess.
But I mean, I wouldn't fly up there.
What I remember Smithers as, it's 3 hours away from anything good.
Man, that's giving a lot of credit to Prince Rupert.
Well, it's on the coast. Yeah, it's a fair.
But so I was up working at this job, and the pyrite it's a waste product because this was a silver mine, so they're not interested in pyrite is iron and sulfur. It's Fe2S, and they're not interested in the iron because it's way more abundant and easier to process in other minerals, and it's not silver, so they didn't really care about it. So they used it to build roads, and I found this one piece that has some of the nicest crystallization that I've ever seen, and it's got these really nice 8-sided die. I'm not sure if tetragonal. Tetragonal's triangle.
Tetrahedron? No. Not.
Tetrahedral, maybe. I taught 2 semesters of mineralogy. I would flunk so many kids if they didn't know that. But
No, but it's one of those do as I
Octahedral.
say.
Oh yeah,
Octahedral.
That makes
it's like
sense.
octopus.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this one's
Hedral.
crazy.
Yeah, the Austin Powers movie. Yeah.
This one is way shinier, and it looks like for people picturing it kind of looks like what you'd picture a diamond looking like, but it's all silver, like the whole thing,
Yeah.
or little tiny diamonds on it.
So you can see really nice
So
crystallization there.
why is fool's gold no value to it? Like, what makes gold valuable versus outside of obviously people want gold, but like, why do they value gold over fool's gold?
Supply and demand.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. So
Okay.
the reason gold
Cool,
became
I should be Alec.
So the reason gold is so valuable or became so valuable is because it's rare, right? There isn't a lot of it.
Right.
It has pretty unique properties, and you can't fake it. Like there's nothing that you can.
It's super conductive, or it's
super conductive,
Yeah,
both
okay.
through heat and electrical.
Right.
It's very conductive, and it also is non-reactive. So gold is a very stable element.
Okay.
So it doesn't have any what are called valence or shell electrons to gain or lose.
Doesn't oxidize.
It doesn't oxidize. That's right.
Fuck oxidizing. sorry. That's a personal
That
thing.
could be the secret to eternal life, right? Like they're always telling us to use anti-oxidizing agents, right?
Oh, Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Are we just rocks?
I mean, in part, I think Carl Sagan said we're star stuff.
Yes.
But no, yeah. So gold, like you can leave gold outside, it won't react. You can put gold in an
Interesting.
electrical circuit, and it basically won't react. It won't tarnish. It won't rust. It won't do anything. You know, like even silver tarnishes. You know, that's why
Right.
silver polish is a thing.
Right.
But gold won't. Gold is a very pure, very non-reactive metal.
That's crazy.
It's quite soft though, isn't it?
It is very soft,
Yeah.
very malleable is the word. They and I think on the space shuttle missions, or maybe for other applications, but they've managed to beat sheets of gold to being about 1 atom thin,
Yeah, they're tiny.
and it won't. It holds its shape. It holds a cohesive structure.
crazy.
Like obviously it's very break. If you stick your finger through
Yeah,
it,
it's gonna break.
yeah,
It's unbreakable.
Like you can take gold and you can hammer it until it's 1 atom thin.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Gold's nuts.
Yeah, because I know that is a huge thing that they use gold for. Like, for example, when they're in space, is all that they use a ton of gold, but it's like the thinnest little piece of gold. It's not like you picture like a huge
Yeah.
brick of it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like gold leaf as well. They put that shit on food
exactly.
now. People literally eat gold.
I just feel like that is such a waste of your just like I'm eating gold on my cheeseburger, and I'm like, why? Just why?
Why?
Totally. Just to say you can.
It's pure
All right.
gluttony.
Well, what do we got next year? This is sweet.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could keep talking about gold forever, but I did bring a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
So
give me more rocks.
give you more rocks. So I've got this guy here.
I like
is,
that one.
It's mostly biotite, and I think this came from a metamorphic complex in the Okanagan. I forget what the other minerals are.
That
but
one's crazy.
It's mostly biotite, and
It's
for
super
people at home,
sparkly.
biotite is a phyllosilicate. So phyllo, like picture phyllo pastry. When it forms
Layers.
in tiny sheets.
Oh, yo, that's a great example of that. Or
Yeah.
description for that.
It's a super common mineral, but it's one of my favorites, and I found that when I was on a road trip for a class that I was taking.
I like the sparkles.
So okay, again, like are you in a like huge deposit of that and you find it, or is it like you just find one specifically?
No, so we went to, I think, is it called Stevens Pass? It's one of the passes between BC and Alberta in the
Okay.
Rockies. And there's a whole bunch of metamorphic complexes out there. And it's a road cut the highway. And the professor said, stop the bus, we'll get out here. And there's a whole bunch of like this biotite rich metamorphic rock. Go and collect however many samples you want. Go and take a look at it, describe it.
So when you're driving out like through anywhere like in Canada, I guess on the highways, but you're more the rural area, you know how sometimes you'll be like going through a mountain pass, let's use the Coquihalla, and there'll be a pull off and you'll just see like a huge just wall of like downed rock. You look in there and you see a whole bunch of shit, obviously assuming there's something there.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
so crazy. That's super cool.
I do that actually everywhere I go.
Yeah.
People for the longest time think that I have bad self-esteem because everywhere I go I walk around and I'm looking at my feet. But really, I'm just looking for rocks. Like it's absolutely the truth.
That's so funny.
You okay? Yeah, you don't seem like it.
Shut up, man.
But yeah,
find
no,
some good
honestly,
rocks here.
I've been super lucky because I've always known that something to do with rocks is going to be what I wanted to do with my life. My parents said, you know, I've got rocks from everywhere I've ever been since I was about 4 years old.
You were
which is
telling me
like
that
when
before.
when I was when you start making memories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my parents, bless their hearts, when they sold our family home and moved interstate across an ocean to an island, one of the few things of mine that they took with them was my entire rock collection.
Wow.
So cute.
They
That's
still have
amazing.
them all. And every couple of weeks I get a message of like, what do you want us to do with these fucking rocks? Get them out of our house.
It's-
And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to pay to ship like a ton of rock. Just keep them in your closet.
It'd
Like,
be so expensive as well.
right?
Just
Yeah.
love them. Just love them like I would.
It's funny because I used to do that. Like being from England, we used to go on European trips all the time when I was a kid because it's so easy, so convenient. And I actually remember vividly we went to Mount Vesuvius.
Oh, cool.
And I got this little red box and it had like 8 different rocks in it. But you know, some people grow out of that.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Whoa.
yeah, I'd just like to apologize to your listeners for your English host who thinks traveling to Italy from England is a long trip.
No, it wasn't. No, I mean, it was not a long trip. It was easy.
Holy, this
when-
podcast.
Sorry, you brought an Australian on to talk to an English person. You knew this was going to end in
Yeah,
violence.
I did say before, I'm just gonna.
I was
bully
listening
Alec
to that
the whole
story
time.
so intently, and then I was like, "Oh shit!"
But I did it. But the first part was true. I did get a box of rocks from Vesuvius, and I remember one of them was yellow and had lots of holes in. I think it was sulfur.
Yeah.
And then there was one, and I loved it. It was my favorite out of the bunch, which was the onyx.
Okay.
Onyx? Is that what
Onyx,
it
yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying your site management, right? That's like what your job is now as with your company.
Yep.
Now, when we were golfing, I can't remember much of exactly how everything works, so you can explain the whole process. But there's something you were explaining about. You basically have like you go to a mine. They say are looking for silver, so they do whatever they do with the silver, and then you still have a mine there. And there might be something that's still in that mine, but it's not valued to the guys that want silver. And what was that process? You're saying you like spin a whole bunch of stuff and it like makes this like rocky liquid. And do you remember what you?
Yeah, I do. So it's two different processes there. So the first thing, so when a mine, say for example, you're going to a copper mine, you can't just go and like scrape copper off the rocks, or you pulverize a whole bunch of rock. There's not just going to be a bunch of copper that comes out of that.
See, I'm glad this is why you're here, because that's what I assumed. It's just like,
They're just pulling
I found
like
the
copper
and he like
piping
pulls
out
it
of the
all out.
rock.
I mean, you can get what it's called a native copper deposit, which is where you have copper metal, like the actual metal copper, like exposed, but
Okay.
it's not super common.
Right.
More commonly, what you have is like you have copper minerals.
Okay.
So like malachite and azurite are both copper minerals.
And
That's
hermaphrodite.
No.
but but that's
Sorry.
malachite and azurite will be
That was funny.
super familiar to people because they're like really nice blue and green minerals that appear together all the time. You would have seen them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you think like Imperial Japan, like they have these tables and these ornate vases that are made out of like a green stone.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not jade, it's malachite. which
Okay,
is-
that's interesting. As I would have assumed jade.
yeah, so that's a copper mineral.
Okay.
Very different from the jade that's in BC. So what they do is they find rocks where there's a high concentration of these minerals, and then they pulverize it into essentially sand-sized pieces and run it through a whole bunch of different proprietary secret liquids that separate out the different minerals until essentially what you're left with is concentrated copper ore and waste product.
Okay.
The waste product goes into a tailing storage facility, which is what we manage, and the copper ore, or the pulverized copper material, gets processed into copper metal.
Okay.
But it's a way of basically just separating out the stuff that they want from the stuff they don't want. And the second thing you were talking about, where that people say they're interested in the copper, but they're not interested in the pyrite, which contains iron. So they close the mine, they've got all the copper out, but all the tailings are still there. They've already been pulverized, and all of a sudden there's a massive spike in the demand for iron.
Right.
Everybody's scrambling to get iron from wherever they can. They think, oh shit, all of this iron in this pyrite is sitting in the tailings storage facility. So they go back in and they reprocess it. They run the tailings through a different set of fluids to separate the iron out.
That's so crazy.
Right?
It's
It
so
is, it's pretty
crazy.
nuts.
And it goes back to what Neve was saying, where it's all kind of supply and demand, right? Like the price of iron is so low that it doesn't make sense
Right.
to reprocess that,
It
because
probably
they can just
costs more than it
to just
than
go
you
and pull
would,
iron ore out of the ground. Like,
Yeah, it's so interesting just because it's like like everything, what you think it is versus what actually happens. And like I would just be so interested how many people, when you say, oh, a mine, they just pictured like literally just like from the movies, like tink tink pulling it out with like trucks, and they're like, put it in the truck and take it away, and they slap the truck or something to what it actually is.
for sure. For sure. No,
That's actually what Alec does. He just slaps the truck.
He just slaps it. Get on out of here, boys.
Yeah, I don't swing a pickaxe, but I can slap a truck.
Damn, this guy's good. Where did we get him from?
He's got big hands.
Okay, so you have some fossils here.
Yes.
Now, as much as the things you've shown us already are very cool, and I find it like crazy how you were able to find them, I get an idea of how now, like you've explained all that. But fossils, to me, it seems just like almost like an impossible task if you're just walking and you're like, holy shit, and you find something. Or is there a process to knowing where fossils are too?
There is a process for sure. It's a little more hit and miss, and it's a little more complicated. So fossils basically only appear in sedimentary rocks.
Okay.
So you're already narrowing yourself down to sedimentary deposits, which is not, as far as I'm aware, the majority, right, of rocks on the surface. And then you have to think, okay, what kind of environments are you likely to find dead animals? Right? So you have to think back into the past. And so one of the principles of geology is called uniformitarianism.
Okay.
And the slogan for that is basically the present is the key to the past. Okay. So the processes that we see in the modern time, so like animals dying in bogs, animals drowning in rivers, or, dying in the desert and then their bones are preserved. Those things must have happened also in the past.
Of course, right.
Right? Because there were animals alive and these same processes were around. So you have to think, okay, so for example, for recent, I don't even think they're technically fossils, but for recent preservation, you think of somewhere like the La Brea tar pits in California, right?
Never heard these.
It's where it's literally like a pools of liquid hydrocarbon, where they've pulled like mammoth skeletons and like saber-toothed cats.
Okay, I've heard of that. I didn't realize that was in California.
The Simpsons did a bunch of episodes.
Okay, I didn't realize it was in Cali. Okay,
yeah. So that's it's like just outside of LA, I think. I'd have to look that up, but.
Or is it just LA? Because it is a giant tar pit.
LA.
They pull out Michael Jackson's skeleton.
No. He went out with the recycling. He was mostly plastic.
What do I put him in? Put him in the can.
I'm sorry, MJ. I didn't mean it.
Too soon.
You were a good dancer and singer. We'll give you
that Pepsi commercial was toit.
Toit.
But so that's one example, right? So we know where, well, at least if we're looking at the rock record, we can say, hey, there was probably a tar pit here at some point. But for a better example, like say you've got like an old lake in a rapidly heating climate that's drying up. Right. So all of the animals are desperate for water. So they're all attracted to this one area. For example, in Wyoming, I think in the States it is, they've got one fossil formation, one sedimentary formation where they have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different species of dinosaur all jumbled together in what we think was this like ring of like super thick, super sticky mud around what must have been the only water source for miles and miles in any direction.
They all had to.
And they all came in and they all got stuck in the mud and they all died. And because it was so dry and they were buried quickly, their bones were preserved.
That's
right.
That's crazy.
How deep down is this stuff? Like, I know obviously sometimes something is shallower, but is there like a constant depth where you're like it's usually pretty freaking deep, or?
Not really. I mean, so the way sedimentary rocks work is like sedimentary rocks are always forming, right? So like you go to a beach, and at some point, if there's enough time and enough pressure, you go down through the sand, it'll start to squeeze together and squeeze together and squeeze together, and it'll become rock. Right. It just takes time. But then if that environment changes, all of a sudden that loose sand gets worked off the top, and that sandstone is exposed, and when it's exposed, it itself starts to erode. Right. So like for the English people in present, you think about like the Dorset coast.
Yeah.
So those rocks there are all Jurassic. But at some point in time, they were buried underground so that they could become rocks.
Right.
They had to be exposed again.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So one of the fossils that I brought today, or two of them actually, are a species of fossil oyster, and I don't even need to describe what they look like because
it looks literally just like an oyster.
I pulled them out of the ground and they look like oysters. And this species is called Inoceramys vancouverensis, and these guys could get up to like 4 or 5 feet across.
What?
Because the waters in the Cretaceous were quite shallow and quite warm.
These things.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, like so this one looks like it's a snail or something. Or wait, no. Oh, I see what part of it is.
That one's just been kind of compressed.
Yeah, I can see what.
This one literally looks like you could open it and eat what's inside.
And even if it was sitting on the ground, you might even just mistake it for an actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Holy, that's so crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And those guys are from the Maastrichtian, I think. So like 66, 67 million years old, just before the death of the dinosaurs. Those guys.
What?
Holy, this could have been a dinosaur's lunch. That's so crazy.
But yeah, so like
do you clean these?
Yeah,
He has a little
cleaned and
toothbrush.
processed them.
Do you have a special
must be
toothbrush
so
for your
fun.
rocks?
Toothbrush, a wire brush, have a Dremel. And then I seal them with.
cool.
We should do a whole episode on just us dremeling things.
Not
Not even rocks,
what's a
just
Dremel?
stuff. It's the best time
Dremel's a
you'll
little
ever have.
rotary tool, so I can
Oh,
spin
there's
like
the little
sanding disc,
yeah,
a cutting
okay.
disc, or a wire
Okay,
brush.
yeah,
They
yeah.
use them on my toes at the
Oh,
Thai
those
foot
things.
spa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're like,
So you and this 65 million year old oyster have something.
yeah, dude. They go in there, they're like, no, not you again, no.
They actually do.
They've both been dremeled by foreigners.
Do you have one of those tumbling things?
A rock tumbler?
Yeah.
No, I don't. That's more of like a social kind of geology. That's more of a
okay.
lapidary thing where you get people who go out and they find things that polish up really well. So like you said before, onyx, things like jade, jasper, cinnabar, like things. They're not mineral names, but they're rocks that people really like to look at.
Right.
The stuff that you find in like, grab 5 rocks for $10 at a the
Yeah.
Whistler Rock Shop or something.
Right, right, right.
That's what I used to like.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. They're great. I mean, if it gets people in the door to thinking about rocks, thinking about geology, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I always laugh. Even like the things of like people that like use crystals to heal their energy. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it works for you. Sure. Like, sure. If you squeeze that crystal,
as long as they're buying the rocks off me, then
yeah.
I don't care. I went to Salt Spring, and the thing about rock shops is my dream job is to own a rock shop, to work in a rock shop, just talk to people about rocks every day. That would be my absolute dream job.
I can so see that for you.
But the thing about these holistic healing, I'm just going to disclose my personal opinion here. If rocks had healing properties, there's like 400 pounds of rocks in my house, I would be the healthiest person alive. Like it's
just case study.
I'm not going to say any more than that, but if, I must be seriously counteracting any healing effects they have.
So it turns out it was just you.
I'm just that toxic a person. Yeah. But no. So you go to like the Whistler Rock Shop, and most of their stuff is like they're in a buyer's market or a seller's market, right? Like their stuff is pretty overpriced for what it is.
Yeah.
But I went to a great like farmer's market on Salt Spring Island, and I bought a whole bunch of stuff that I'd never seen anywhere else for like dirt cheap prices. So these holistic places, they do have something going for them.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely do not know what they have.
No.
Well, I always think it's hilarious, like, because what the value of things is just based off what people are willing to pay for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like I guess you're right. Like you can say whatever you want, but if 3 rocks are $10, then they're killing it.
Dude, I mean, for one, if you're staying in Whistler, you probably got a bit of moolah, right?
True.
And that's just overpaying for pretty things. You kind of deserve it, honestly. If you're buying rocks in Whistler,
yeah, I
you
mean
deserve
that's
to get ripped off.
Can you imagine you go to Whistler, like you're from a different country, and you go to Whistler and you come back and you're like, I got some rocks from Whistler. Like it's like this crazy like thing, like, oh, Whistler's got the best rocks, and but really it's just like some random person in Whistler selling rocks to people.
Totally. No, wait. What? Oh, yeah, that's kind of how the whole diamond engagement ring thing started, right? Like De Boers, out of South Africa, they had a whole stockpile of diamonds, and they just limited how many they sold at a time to kind of create this artificial scarcity.
Right.
So, and then they started pumping out phrases like "diamonds are a girl's best friend," "diamonds are forever." So people are like, "Oh shit, I don't really love this girl unless I give her something super important."
Like
and diamonds are pretty expensive. Yeah, so like I'll buy her a diamond ring. There are so many diamonds, man. Like
and now they're making them in labs, right? Yeah.
90% of diamonds that are mined don't go into rings. you can go to any hardware store and buy way more diamonds for way cheaper than you can
Yeah.
at any jewelry store.
Okay, cubic zirconium is man-made diamond, correct? No.
Zircon. So remember I was talking to you about the radiometric dating?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that uses the mineral zircon.
Okay.
So zircon, cubic zirconium is just one expression of the mineral zircon.
Okay. So zircon is I thought it was cubic zirconium, but I'm guessing it was zircon. I heard the difference between that and a diamond is like when you get to the molecular level, they just aren't the same because we made it. Like you can't make a diamond, it's just is. Whereas we can do everything that's the process to make one, but it will never be the perfection of one. Is that true? Or?
We can totally make diamonds.
Oh, okay.
So diamond is just pure carbon under so much pressure that it forms a tetrahedral lattice.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, and that's why diamonds are beautiful. Like I won't lie, like I've got a diamond earring. Like it's not. Diamonds are spectacular.
Okay,
like,
bougie.
I didn't buy it for myself. But yeah, so we can absolutely recreate diamonds in the lab, and they are no different than diamonds mined out of the ground.
So there's none of that, like the master guy will look and be like, I can tell the difference between them.
Absolutely no way. There's no way. Because diamonds, like a property of being a diamond is that they have a regular, repeated crystal structure.
Right.
So the fact that we can make that same structure in the lab means it's exactly the same.
That's like literally what
so
it means.
I always kind of laugh when people are like, oh, but it's lab grown, it's not the real thing. I'm like, okay, so what you're really nostalgic for here is the child slave labor. Like, is that what you're missing?
Yeah.
That's me. Look, she's like, I can tell this was not made with child slave labor.
Yeah, right. I need blood on my diamonds, baby. It's not real for me if a child didn't die to make this real.
Yeah, I mean, that is a crazy thing, that movie Blood Diamond. I feel like it's obviously a bit over the top, but it did make you. It's kind of like one of those things.
It's pretty accurate.
It is, yeah. Like even, and the one that I think's weird is the lithium mines. It's basically like the same deal now, I'm pretty sure, with lithium as it was with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exploitation that goes on in what people would consider third world parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
The West needs resources, so where are we going to get them from? Well, where are they? They're in Central Africa. Okay, well that's great. So we have the money and the access to be able to get them out.
You know what's so bizarre about that? I can never get over is how the countries, for the most part, that have the resource always get pillaged. Like Bolivia has so much natural resources, and they got pillaged so hard by all the South American countries around them, and it just always seems to be like, I don't know why, it just does.
Well, yeah, I think that's just like human as well, right? If you see somebody else has got something that you want and they don't have the means to defend themselves, you're just gonna fucking take it.
Sorry, I'm trying really hard not to make another British joke here. But,
I didn't know how
somebody asked me to say something positive about the British Empire the other day, and I was like, the only thing I could think of was, well, they're responsible for the most Independence Day holidays in the world. But...
There we are.
I mean, yeah, everyone wouldn't be celebrating their independence.
You can take that from me as a colonial slave, but
you're welcome.
But no, you're totally right.
Okay, I have a question going back. Is this a fossil?
Yes.
I've wanted to know since I haven't looked at it because you brought it out and was facing away from me. I was like, I'm not going to look until we talk about it.
So this is unequivocally the coolest thing I've ever found. That's not the best part of it. I've actually misplaced the best part, but this is the other half.
The coolest thing you've ever found.
I know. I think I took it to work and I left it on my desk. But
whoa.
That is, as far as expert testimony can attest, that is part of the rib of a marine dinosaur.
What?
Yeah.
Where'd you find that?
I found that on Vancouver Island.
You can. Okay, I thought it might have been wood because it definitely has these porous striations to it. Cool.
Yeah. So what Derek's looking at there is about 2 inches long, about three quarters of an inch wide, and the other piece that I have has the full width in relief. It looks like a cylinder.
Oh, what?
And it's a pockmarked parallel piece of a rib bone of, I think, an elasmosaur. Which was, for people at home, if you ever pictured the Loch Ness Monster, what they think the Loch Ness Monster is with the flippers, the long neck and the tiny head, I have one of his ribs that sits on my coffee table.
So he
That's
is real.
He is. And Alec has his. And Alec
He
has
was,
his
yeah. I killed him and stole his rib.
Damn it, Scotland's gonna be
That's
pissed at you.
Alec's claim to
Okay,
fame.
So this is the coolest thing
That's
that
very
I've
cool.
found. And I found that, actually, I'm not going to tell you where I found that, but the reason that...
In Canada.
In Canada.
In
On
Canada.
Vancouver Island, I'll give you
There
that
you go.
much.
We know exactly where it is.
But there's a great museum in Comox. If you ever get the chance to go, the guy who runs it, his name is Pat Trask.
Okay.
And he's been doing tours to this location for years and years and years, and he takes school children. And every day he goes out there, he says, okay, I want you all to go and find a fossil. And every day for all of these years, he's never had a child come back without one.
What?
And he and his brother have pulled 2 full dinosaurs out of that river.
What?
Well, actually, they're not dinosaurs. Technically, they're marine reptiles, but... Sorry, I'm getting pedantic.
No.
He
I
and his
would
brother
prefer
worked-
you are accurate with stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Because I'm sick and tired of people mistaking the two.
I can just hear my thesis committee in the back of my head being like, it's not a dinosaur, it's a marine reptile.
So just so everyone knows, Alec, how long ago did you complete your thesis?
August.
That's why he has the PTSD.
Yeah.
It's still fresh.
That's why I'm still drinking that away. But yeah, so that was, if you go to this museum, they have the actual bones that they pulled out of the ground, and then also a full scale replica of what the whole skeleton would have looked like.
That's very cool.
Holy. Okay, I think we're gonna stop there for a second. Take a little break here.
Yeah.
Rocks, baby, we are back. All right, that was honestly, the whole reason I wanted to have you on was just for that. Just so
you-
it's-
I can
Go
respect
now.
it.
anything else that happens tonight, it's awesome. This was awesome.
Okay, I've actually got a question to start off Act 2. What's limestone? Does it come from limes?
For stone.
It's a good question. So technically limestone is a sedimentary rock. Although I don't really like it.
Oh,
Wow, rude.
what did it do to you?
It just annoyed me.
Oh, well, okay.
So limestone is what's called a biochemical rock. So typically in sedimentary rocks, it's pieces of other rock that have time to settle and compact and become lithified again, and they
Yeah.
become rocks.
Okay.
Right.
Limestone used to be alive. Limestone is bits and pieces of like not carboniferous, carbonaceous, no, anyway, it's made up of, instead of being pieces of little rock, it's pieces of skeleton of
Oh, wow.
formerly
Crazy.
alive things.
Like, is coral
yeah, so
a
corals,
limestone?
you can have like bivalves, you can have like pieces of shell, pieces of coral, pieces of all kinds of like shallow marine life, and they basically just die over time and form this compacted layer of limestone.
Oh yeah, limestone pisses me off too.
Oh no, I ask because like in Somerset, where I'm from in England, is on the southwest coast there, kind of near Bristol and
Yep.
that sort of ends. All of the houses up until a point were all limestone.
Yeah.
Like all of them. My house is limestone. My house in England is limestone. And then all of a sudden there was just like a mass shortage of limestone, and everything had to go to red brick houses. And I just remember that from my childhood, and I was curious.
Limestone's extremely soft, right?
It can be soft. It can also, well, it depends. So like just about everything exists on a spectrum. So you can have really soft, really crumbly limestones, and you can have like super lithified, super hard limestones.
Okay.
I do have some limestone pieces in my house, also from Vancouver Island. They're Jurassic age, so like 180 million years old. But
I think we should just have a little timeline, and every time Alex says a date farther back, we just go from red circle, draw a line farther back, and then make another date.
every time Alex says a geological age, take a drink.
Woo, we'll be drinking a lot.
That sounds like most geologists. I know. There's an old expression that you can tell how much geological knowledge someone has by how fat their belly is. Because if there's two things geologists love to do, it's talk about rocks and drink.
Yeah. I feel like it's like this negative feedback loop.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you drink, the more you talk about rocks, so the more you drink. Absolutely. Who said it was negative?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds all positive to me.
But yeah, limestone's a pretty cool rock. There's one of the things about limestone is that, so you know, typically when you think of like, say you have a sugar cube and you put it into a glass of water, will it dissolve more quickly in a glass of cold water or a glass of hot water?
I'd assume hot.
Yeah, that's true for just about everything, for most things.
Okay.
Limestone is actually the opposite. It erodes faster in cold water than hot water.
Weird.
So what happens then is where you have these limestone deposits is most often where you have these massive cave systems.
Right.
So most of the big cave systems that you can think of are actually made out of limestone because you have these underground rivers.
Wookie Hole.
Wookie Hole.
Do you know Wookie Hole?
No, I don't. Where's that?
It's in Somerset. It's actually in Wells. Fun fact: Wells is where Hot Fuzz was filmed.
Yeah, if you watch
Love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
Sweet. It's
But
super sweet
there's
place.
this huge. In fact, there's a ton of caves. So when I took Derek to England, there's this place called Cheddar Gorge. Have you heard of Cheddar Gorge?
Love that. No.
Okay, it's where cheddar cheese comes from.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I ate
That's
cheddar
literally
cheese
where-
from Cheddar Gorge.
Yeah,
Is that where Wallace and Gromit live?
no, actually,
No,
but Wallace and
but-
Gromit was made in Bristol.
Yeah, it's not
Aardman
far off.
Studios from
Wednesday.
Bristol. Yeah. But so the why cheddar cheese came from cheddar is because it was aged in the caves in cheddar. Fun fact.
Where would we be without rocks?
Where would
No
we
cheese.
Be? Yeah, exactly.
Cheese.
No
No
cheese.
cheese.
No
I would,
cheese.
I
Cheese,
would
that's
die.
for sure.
Yeah.
I love cheese.
Yeah, I do too.
Wookie Hole is like a huge attraction in Somerset because it's this huge underground cave system, and you can go cave diving and everything in there. And there's like a tale about a witch who lived there, and she had a crystal ball, and it was like a whole
Well, it was
thing.
so awkward because like it was the classic story of her prince or the king. Or yeah, it was a prince, I think.
Oh, it didn't like her because she was ugly.
He left to go to somewhere, and then he came back 7 years later, and she was ugly, so he didn't like her anymore. So she ran off to a cave and became a witch.
Yeah, classic.
Classic. Tale as old as time.
But it's a really cool underground cave system, and that makes sense for all the limestone deposits.
Yeah. So, a lot of the big cave networks around the world are based in limestone because it just has this kind of unique property where it dissolves faster in cold water than...
Have you ever been into any mega caves?
Yeah, I have, actually. I'm
Holy.
glad you brought that up. One of my favorite trips of all time was with a few friends of mine when I was living in Texas. We went to Carlsbad Caverns, which is the second largest cave system in North America. I think only behind Mammoth Caves, which is also in the US. Anyway, Carlsbad Caverns is in New Mexico. And it actually, it's kind of a funny story. So typically what you do is you hike down, and it's like twice the depth as the Empire State Building is tall.
Okay.
What?
And there's like more pits that go deeper than that, but they can't make paths, so the
Yeah.
tourists don't go in there, kind of thing. And people are like, there's a bunch of skeletons at the bottom and all that kind of shit. But it was pretty funny because we hiked down, and it's a long way down. It's like, I don't know, like 1,100, 1,200 feet, something like that.
Jeez.
And maybe not that far, maybe like 800 feet. But anyway,
Still deep.
what you do is you hike down, you explore around the caves, and then there's like this main lobby area, and there are elevators that take you back up. But when we went, the elevators were out of service. They were working on them, and the only place they had signs was once you were already at the bottom. So this was back in my like physical peak, so I was like, okay, we'll just walk back up again. But the hundreds of American tourists that were down there were not having a good time
Oh my
thinking
goodness.
about having to hike back out of this
Yeah.
I
cave.
bet, yeah.
And it was really hard not, like, I'm not trying to make fun of people for anything, but like, it was kind of tragically funny that seeing all these people try and make their way out of the cave. Yeah. And it's basically just like a couple of kilometers of switchbacks because it's that steep and it's that high.
I mean, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to go to a cave system 800 meters deep if you can't walk out of it.
I mean, they should probably have a sign at the front of the cave saying the elevators are closed.
Yeah, it was kind of cruel joke to have the only signs be at the very bottom. But it was fantastic. Like, and it's one of the, I don't know, it's in a pretty remote area of New Mexico, but it's a fantastic cave system if you ever get the chance to go. They've got like pools in there that are like stalactites and stalagmites and like pools of crystal clear water. They call them like the fairy pool, and it's like pinks and cream colored.
Yeah,
and like you can see all the
it's like Wookiee Hole. You would love Wookiee Hole.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
You gotta get to
big
Somerset.
Cave. I'd love to, because the thing with Wookiee Hole, it's super cool. It's the only cave I've been in. But you definitely are just walking through it all. I think it'd be cool to go to one where I don't want to say like do the scramble where you actually are like squeezing through, but more of a like you're like kind of like going
you just
through, walking through, but it's like a more of an adventure. Because no disrespect to Wookiee Hole, but it was tourists.
It's guided, right?
Yeah,
so you can't go in by yourself because it's like it's soaking as well. Like it's super
the
wet
Canmore
down
caves in Canmore, up like near the border of Alberta there, apparently they have a cave system and you can just go like wander around it, and they give you all the gear. You have the hooks, so like you can't, like, I guess you literally can get lost, but if you're following the rules, you're able to actually go explore everything because you're just like hooked on. And they have obviously areas you can't go, like it's blocked off, but it's supposed to be so cool.
That's super cool. I haven't heard about. I've done some work out near Canmore. I didn't know they had caves out there, but
yeah,
that's those 700 million odd year old limestone that's out there. So it wouldn't surprise me if the caves are in that. Like,
yeah, haven't they found like a fuck ton of dinosaurs in Alberta?
Oh yeah. Go to the Badlands. Yeah.
Have you been there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Where's the Badlands?
It's like an hour and a half or 2 hours east of Calgary, and you can go to this place Drumheller.
Yeah.
And they have, I forget what it's called. It's not the Viking Formation, but maybe it's just called the Dinosaur Formation. But anyway, they have this. It's kind of funny. Like, so you picture everything east of the Rockies as being like flat, right? So it's true. It is just flat. But you drive along the highway, and all of a sudden you find yourself going downhill, and you kind of drive down into this slot canyon. And the road winds around, and all of a sudden you're in this canyon where it's just sheer walls of rock on either side, and there's a whole town down there.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah, and there's this really cool museum, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what the name of the museum is, but I'm sure it's the Royal something. But
we love the Royals.
Yeah.
God save our king.
Oh yeah, the king.
Trapped me on an island for 200 years. But yeah, you go to this museum, Royal Tyrrell, that's what it is, and they have these amazing dinosaur exhibits. There's probably the most detailed dinosaur fossil that's ever been found, and it's this ankylosaur, which it's tough to describe. It's kind of like a short quadrupedal, so it walks on 4 legs dinosaur, and it's covered in like a bony armor. Oh. And on the end of its tail, it has like a double-headed club.
Oh yeah, I know. Those are sweet.
They're
ones.
on Ice Age.
Yeah. And if you ever saw like Walking with Dinosaurs,
I'm trying to remember what I called them. It was I called them like armor slugs or something.
They
I
have
know exactly
like
what you're talking about,
armor heads.
Yeah, that's right.
I know what you're talking about.
So ankylosaur, this guy, and apparently it happens all the time in like eastern Alberta, but this guy just happened to be doing renovations in his basement, and as they were excavating this guy's basement, they found this entire perfectly preserved ankylosaur fossil.
I feel like I've heard about this.
Yeah, and you can see like the individual scales on its back preserved at that level of detail.
That's
and
crazy.
They have it on display in this museum. If you've got the internet, you should look up a picture of it. But
what's it called?
It's the Royal Tyrrell ankylosaur, ANKYLOSAUR.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely the ones off Ice Age.
But yeah, so like Alberta is amazing. Like you hear all the time, kids, you know, they'll go for a walk with their grandparents and they'll trip over a Tyrannosaurus leg or whatever, and it's like, or Albertosaurus, I guess like, they have out there. Yeah. Like that's literally living my dream.
Holy crap. Is this it?
That's the one.
Look it literally looks like the full dinosaur in rock.
Yeah.
Like it died yesterday.
That's crazy.
Holy.
Can confirm it is the one out of Ice Age.
Damn, whoever found that, he or she is probably so cocky.
Yeah.
Like, just everything they do, someone's like, says something, they're like, you seen what I found?
They're like, oh, I found a quarter on the street. They're like,
Is that all? Like, you're like, it's not always about you and your stupid
I
ankylosaur.
found the most intact dinosaur fossil ever discovered in my basement. No biggie.
And all I did was renovate.
Yeah, all I did was pay some guy to dig it up for me. Like, but yeah, apparently stuff like that happens all the time in Alberta. You know, like they'll be doing a new highway extension and they'll blow through a road cut and find like 50 dinosaurs.
So cool.
Yeah.
So if you're would you prefer to look at, say, BC or Alberta just strictly from geology? Like, what's more interesting to you to look at?
It's a good question. I think there are more dinosaurs in Alberta, which is super cool. Mm-hmm. But I think outside of the oil fields and anything to the east, the geology gets kind of dull. So I think I'd probably take BC because we have dinosaurs here too.
Right.
But we also have like a bunch of cool geomorphology and like a bunch of cool minerals that outcrop in different places. And
right.
because of that, like I was saying earlier, that Canadian Cordillera where you just smash into all of these different rock types. You basically have all of these bands that run north to south of different geology that you can go and check out and explore. And
that's so cool. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
We have really cool rivers here too.
True.
And you can find cool rocks in cool rivers.
So
exactly.
The river right outside here, Mosquito Creek. So for people, we're Upper Mosquito. There's the main river, and it's just been blown to shit because of the atmospheric rivers. It's so crazy. Like there used to be, we'd go right down, and there was a pool that you could go, and Nuo could like full on swim in it, play with sticks. And now it's just flowing river because all these jumbo rocks, like they were way too big
just
to
got
move.
Completely dislodged.
Just dislodged so far. Mm-hmm. And then I had this one little mini river spot that we go to, and I like built it so that it could be like bailed out so Nuo could go in the summer and like bathe in it or like cool off. And that just also got blown out. And it's like my own personal little like watching how a river shapes the environment around. I'm like, this is so cool.
Oh, wait, here's another geographical word. Meander.
Meander, like a river.
Oh.
That's a curve in a river.
What's your favorite?
Fun facts.
Fun
facts of Eve.
We should make that a permanent segment.
That's just fun facts with Eve. Hey,
what else you got?
That's the only fact.
Do you know in Thailand they had the same problem as China with overpopulation, but they, instead of the one-child policy, they introduced Mr. Condom, which was like a mascot for safe sex.
And he worked really well.
It worked
99.9% of the time.
99.7.
Sorry.
I mean, as you can see by my child, I was unaware of this condom thing.
Dang it, Derek.
Gosh, dang it.
Love you, Juliet.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Okay, I want to get to... Is this the final rock?
Yeah, that's the last one that I brought.
Wait, this big one first.
Oh yeah,
sorry,
that massive one.
Second last one that I brought. So this is... I got this when I was assisting a guy doing his PhD in geology in the Okanagan, so I got to spend... I don't know, it's like 10, 12 weeks just like hucking around different areas of the Okanagan during the summer. So it's
nice.
Like, basically as ideal a fieldwork season as you can have.
Yeah.
100%.
And he was working in igneous rocks, so like volcanics and mapping lava flows and doing a lot of geochemistry and all that kind of thing. But he knew I was a sedimentologist, so he took me to an area just before you cross the bridge coming into West Kelowna, like where the highway comes around.
Yeah.
I think there's a logging company on the right hand side. Anyway, and he goes, "Oh, this is the White Lake Formation. This is like Eocene. So if I haven't got my dates wrong, it's like somewhere in the 50s of millions of years old, a little bit younger than the stuff that I've been studying." And he goes, "Oh, just go and have a poke around, see what you can find." And I found this piece, and I like to brag that it's nicer than museum quality because I've actually been to several museums that have this formation in it and their fossils aren't as nice as mine.
No way.
But this is covered in basically perfect imprints of ferns with leaves and stems.
Yeah, I really like this one.
And it sits on my coffee table, and I don't know, I just really like it.
Yeah, it's really really
in your
detailed.
ideal world, one day could you just open up your own rock museum via your rocks?
I don't like, one of the hardest things is access. So like, where all the really cool minerals are, you either have to have mined them or be in a mine, and where the fossils are, it's usually like a provincial or a national park, or
Right.
you have to be part of a university or a research team to go and work and collect the nicest specimens.
Yeah,
So
that's very cool.
I don't
I
think
like that one.
as an individual I'll ever have the opportunity to open my own museum unless I was working in one of those fields, right? But I mean, like I said before, my dream job is absolutely to open a rock shop and just kind of chat to people about rocks.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really-
That'd be so sweet.
You could do something like that on the island, I think.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, if Pat Trask, if you're listening to this episode, and you need a successor for your museum, just hit me up, man.
Pat, he knows what he's talking about. Trust me on this one. I've just been interviewing for hour 15 minutes here. It's so crazy. So just for the people at home, like you can see all these like leaf and fern, like just like, is that the veins
like,
of them?
fully
Is that what you call it on
imprints.
the leaf? The vein of it, or?
I guess so.
But
Xylem
the
and
thing that's
phloem.
crazy about it is it really looks like you could like rub it off because it's still alive.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah,
Oh,
what it
cool.
reminds me of is you know, when you're in like in primary school and you do the prints.
Oh yeah, you do like a
you
rubbing
paint,
or
yeah,
something.
you like paint the leaves and then you like print them out onto paper. It literally looks like it's just been printed on there. It's so cool.
And so, did you find this as this chunk, or did you break this chunk off?
I broke that chunk off.
So it was bigger.
It was bigger, and it was part of a layer that recessed into the rock wall, so I wouldn't have been able to get it out. But
Makes
yeah,
sense.
I brought it home, and I used my I have an engraving tool to cut
Cool.
off kind of the excess
Yeah.
sandstone that was covering the fossil, and then I sealed it again. And people have different approaches to this. Some people use like a wet look concrete finish.
Right.
I like to use outdoor furniture varnish because
Okay.
it's waterproof, and it gives it
Yeah.
it gives it that little bit of gloss that shows the detail off.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Oh, I guess that's an art in itself. Within it is how do you take it? Like, how do you finish everything? Right.
Yeah, like I had to do a ton of research, like what kind of rock is good with what kind of material. Like my bathroom is full of like 58 different chemicals for like polishing different minerals, and like
love
my wife was like, what are we doing here? Like what kind of drugs are you making? And it's like, no, it's all for the rocks. And then she just kind of walked out. But
She's like, wait, I thought you were making a ton of money with all these chemicals. God
It's
damn
like,
it.
at least he's not out cheating on me. He's just in the bathroom polishing. a
Polishing.
rock.
tell me your husband will never cheat on you without telling me. Like it's just me in the bathroom with a toothbrush and a bunch of chemicals.
He's at the club. She's like, why? He's at the club. Storms in. He's just in the bathroom of the club. doing it still.
I took my rocks here.
Yeah, no,
Nuo.
I would much rather be out looking for rocks than in any kind of club.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember growing up. You might probably know this. I have zero rhythm and talent in the field of music and rhythm, and so I hated everything to do with the club. And so there was like 1920. My friends would go, and I'd always just be like, hated every second of it. And then as soon as they stopped going, I was like, thank fuck.
Honestly, I was kind of the same. Like, I've never been a big club scene.
Oh, I was a club whore back in my day. I fucking loved the club. From like
Really?
yeah.
You?
No way! I can't believe it.
I started going to the clubs when I was like 15. Using a fake ID.
Yeah, but wait. You lived in Somerset. What is a club in Somerset? Is it Spoons, the bar?
No.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's just some dude's barn.
No, we did have barn parties, but that's
Get
besides
down,
the
get
point.
down Dorset. Come down barn.
Like,
We're having a barn burner.
I have a fake ID, and they're like, we don't care. It's a bar.
But I did have friends that we would party on their farms. But
For
the
sure.
club, Palace Theatre of Dreams, it was like an old theater.
Sounds like an indie band.
And then it was the club called Palace. And I was called the Palace Princess because I was there all the
So
time.
according to all of Neve's friends and her parents, it's not a good thing that she was called that. It's just Neve.
As a 15-year-old? Man, I can't.
I was like, I was going to have that on my gravestone at one point. Live fast, die young, Palace Princess. Anyway.
No, it's a good little palate cleanser from the dry science of rocks.
What's the book? Palace Princess.
Palace Princess palate cleanser. There you go.
If you're wondering where she's gone,
Trademark that.
Anyway, rocks. I want to know about this last rock.
Yes.
All right.
This one's I think the easiest one to say is
So
cool.
this one is a rock or is a mineral?
It's a mineral.
Okay.
Oh, nice, Neve. You've been listening.
Yeah. So.
I do sometimes.
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna put myself on the spot here. So minerals to be a mineral, it has to have 5 key characteristics. So it has to be a unique chemical composition.
Yep.
With a unique crystalline structure.
Yep.
It's inorganic. It has distinct physical properties, and oh shit, I'd failed the course that I taught twice. Oh, I can't remember the 5th one. Anyway, any of my former students listening, disregard
awkward,
that.
Dude, this is awkward because a large part of our fan base is just your students.
Could you imagine? You get like letters to the pod. It's like, this guy's bullshit.
Here's this guy. There's only 19 people listening, and all of them.
He's a fraud, man. He's a fraud.
Wait, so this rock actually kind of looks like the States.
That's just its shape. I don't think that really has anything to do with it.
No, I didn't say it had anything to do with it. I'm just describing. It looks kind of like the United States.
I actually broke it recently. It didn't.
Oh no!
Can you see what I mean?
Yeah, I can.
Like that's New Mexico down there. There's Florida. Washington's up here.
It's janky,
anyway,
but you know what?
Anyway, my descriptors are
what Neve's holding is some ulexite that I found in Alberta. And when you find it raw, it doesn't really look like much. It just kind of looks like massive quartz. It's a big white mass. But if you cut it and polish it, the crystals grow in such a way that when you look at it on the wide face, and Derek's kind of doing some finger tricks with it here now, it's actually fiber optic. You can see through it.
Yeah. Is it opaque? Is that what's called fiber optic?
Yeah. So that, well, I don't know if that's technically the right term.
It's got like channels, though. You can see it's got like frosted glass.
Yeah, the crystals
almost,
grow vertically, and they're very thin. And when you cut across them on a flat plane, light is transmitted through, and it basically is a one-to-one representation of what's behind it.
Yeah.
This is such a cool one.
And it's just one of those things. It's like, we've learned how to do so many things by understanding the physical properties of the things we see that are found in nature. Like, who would have thought that you could take something solid, like a rock or a mineral, and you can pass light through it because it reflects in such a way through these tiny little vertical crystals that what goes in one end essentially comes out the same at the other end. And then we're like, oh, why don't we just do that with glass and make it into long strings, and we can pass information down there? Like it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It doesn't even make sense. That whole saying of like new technology is like magic. Like that fiber optics is a perfect example of that. Like it's just like obviously it literally makes sense, but like it's so like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so trippy because when you angle it differently, I know my finger's in the same spot, but it's moving. Even though it's not. It's crazy.
And it's just the way the light reflects.
Yeah, and it's really hard to describe it, but it's kind of like that
foggy crystal, but smooth.
Yeah, but also
I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of like when there's you're looking under ice. It's kind of like a layer of ice, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Amethyst, that's the purple, right? Yeah. Amethyst has no real value to it other than people like it. Is that basic? Because
Amethyst is super common.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I was saying earlier, where you have these gift store rocks.
Yeah.
Amethyst is just quartz. So quartz is, I don't know, it's one of the most common minerals on Earth. Something like 75% of the Earth's crust is made up of silicate minerals, and quartz is 2/3 of those, or a third of those. Quartz is everywhere. It's super common. Amethyst is quartz with, and I don't know what the mineral inclusion is, but quartz is SiO4 is the chemical formula. It has some metallic inclusion that makes it purple when it forms. So it's just quartz plus a little bit of something else.
Yeah.
So it's not super it's very common. It's all over the place. You can even manufacture it. You can cook clear quartz with an oxide of this metal, I think, and
meth.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, but yeah. But yeah, essentially, like
she's good at those ones.
yeah, you change the formula, you get a different color. Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah.
Amethyst lab.
But yeah, I mean, amethyst, I think, is also my birthstone if you're into that kind of thing. But
You're March, February.
Aquarius, yeah, February.
Yeah. Yeah, because birthstones are done by the month.
Wait, since you're
Not by
both
the sign.
Not by the sun.
you're both Aquarius, don't you have
Yeah,
to fight?
no.
Oh.
I'm because January's Garnet, February's Amethyst, and I know that because my dad's also February and he's Amethyst. And then.
But yeah, so amethyst isn't really its own thing. It's just quartz.
Yeah.
Okay.
So same with like citrine, like celestine, like all of these things that you'll see in different gift shops. It's
Yeah,
all
you get
just
like
quartz.
rose quartz as well.
It's just
Okay,
quartz.
Makes
so-
people fall in love with you.
So we've done our
Allegedly.
My house is full of rose quartz, but hopefully my wife isn't listening.
That's how you got clear. I was wondering. You
It
know?
actually makes way more sense. That makes way
Magic
more
is real.
Okay, so kind of a pivot off the rocks, but still sticking within your field. You go and do all this cool stuff in the countrysides or the backcountry of everywhere. What wildlife have you run into? You must have seen some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I have. So between kind of grad school and my job that I've had now for about 7 months, yeah, a ton of stuff. Like when I was in the Okanagan, I saw obviously a bunch of deer, a bunch of foxes. I saw a baby moose, which was kind of cool. Well, baby's maybe the wrong word. It was like maybe 6 to 8 months old. It was about 5 foot tall.
So he's probably
Oh,
was
geez,
the
yeah.
guy or
He's
girl?
probably taller than me.
I'm not sure. It didn't have antlers, but
Because guy mooses are just pissed. The second they can walk, they're pissed.
didn't know that about them.
Oh
but-
yeah.
But yeah, this one was like we were in a truck. We were in an F-150, and it was like it looked skinny, but it definitely wasn't a deer. It was the wrong color and the wrong shape, but it was like eye to eye with me in the driver's seat. And I was like, oh shit, this cool.
Yeah.
Like a ton of bears. When I was working in Haida Gwaii down in the national park in Gwaii Harness, and we were there. When were we there? We were there from like late May to early July. And the first week we were there, we saw a pod of orcas who come through there like every year, and they had a newborn calf with them. And the calf was so you know how orcas are black and white.
Yeah.
This one was so young, it was black and pink.
Oh.
It was
like
it was like
Jesus.
days old.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was pretty cool. But I'll tell you this one story. I was at work at this same site in northern BC near Houston. And we were on kind of the second to last day of the project. And basically this project was we were going into wooded areas and digging test pits looking for suitable material for construction.
Okay.
So it had to have like the right composition of like fine material and also coarse material.
Yeah.
And we come into this one area and we're looking around, and actually I can show you the photo. It's not going to work for the listeners at home, but this road was an old forestry road.
Don't worry, Joach will forgive you.
Joach.
He's our only
Yeah,
friend.
Shout out my boy Joey.
Yeah, what up, Joey?
Not you, Roger. But,
Fuck you, Roger.
but this road was basically covered in footprints,
Oh damn.
and they were
Oh man.
quite small. They were baby bear footprints.
Oh, that's even worse.
And yeah, so we were like, okay, this is pretty bad. And I don't know much about like wilderness hiking, but I know one of the differences between black bears and grizzly bear prints is black bears don't often show the claws, and then grizzly bears will be like more square padding and the claw imprints will show. So when we saw these,
Oh yeah, that's for sure, grizzly.
we were like,
Oh.
oh shit, so there's some, bear in area, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're coming into, I think it was like our third or fourth hike in of the day. So we hike up the roads because it's easy. And then we cut into the trees by about 150 meters and dig a pit. So we kind of walk down from our truck and we duck into the woods, and we get about 10 meters into the woods, and we got our heads down. And about 15 yards in front of us off to the right, we hear this big...
Oh no.
And I can't even do it justice. Like I felt it in my pit of my stomach. I was like, there is something big in there that does not want us to join it. And before I knew it, we were back at the truck. I had my bear banger in one hand and my bear spray in the other, and I was like, I do not consciously remember pulling these out. And I was shaking, like I was trying to drive and I was shaking so much the airbag warning came on in the truck.
Jeez.
And so we get back to camp and we get in there and I've got Wi-Fi and I look up and I'm like, oh, you know, what animals growl in northern BC, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, the most common things is like, you know, wolves can growl, foxes can growl. And I'm like, oh, it's not a wolf or a fox. And I'm like, do bears growl? And what Google was telling me was like, oh yeah, grizzly bears growl, but black bears are incapable. I was like, oh shit, so we nearly just, you know, ran over the top of a grizzly bear, possibly with cub.
Yeah.
So we filed a safety report with work, and my supervisor was like, oh yeah, you guys didn't do any spots more, right? And I was like, no, we didn't. He's like, oh great, you made a good decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing that's probably actually good about it being a grizzly bear is those things are like apex as hell. You see a grizzly bear walking around in the wild, and you're like, this guy doesn't care. Like, they know. And so he, like, that growl, they were probably just like, get out of here, as opposed to, like, because they can mess you up in a second.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it was, because we didn't actually see it. We only saw the footprints and heard the noise. But whatever it was, like, the monkey part of my brain was like, go get away from here. Like, right now. Don't.
I've had some grizzly bear encounters in Kitimat because they literally walk around the streets there. Yeah. And every time you're just like, oh my gosh. Because black bears, I'm not saying like I could take a black bear, but if you had a black bear coming at you, I think you could attempt to get away from it.
You could try and scare it,
or like maybe it swings you, like push off, or it hits you or something. Whatever, you scramble away. You are fucked. If a grizzly bear wants you dead, you're just dead.
No part of that interaction is your choice. Yeah. It's just whatever the grizzly bear wants.
There's nothing. And that being said, I am not saying I can take black bears in a fight, but I'm not saying I can't.
You hear that, Jake Paul?
2 weeks from now, can you imagine you see me fighting Jake Paul? The best part.
How did we end
3 men, hell in a cell. You, Jake Paul, and a black bear. Only one of you walks out alive.
The best part is if I fought Jake Paul, everyone would hate Jake Paul so much they'd be like he could beat him, but it's like no, he can't.
Derek, I'd back you against a Jake Paul.
Like, I just feel like the world's worth, because they just want Jake Paul to lose so bad they'll like irrationally back anyone.
Full disclosure, I wanted Mike Tyson to beat him into a paste. But...
I think everyone did. I think that whole fight was really anyone that actually was like, I can't believe Mike didn't win. I'm like, I can't believe you actually thought like you wanted him to win. But you
he had 20 million great reasons to not win that fight. Like.
That was cool though to see Netflix doing a live thing like that.
Well, it would have been cooler if it was better.
The parts that people could see anyway.
The fight before, the women's fight was that one fight of the year in all of boxing last year.
It should win it again this year.
It was a good fight.
It was a really
good fight.
But the only thing about it is like I felt like, again, I don't know. I watch some MMA, so I know UFC, but even then I'm not like a savant or know too much. But I just felt like the women...
If her eyelids hanging off,
neither of them
probably shouldn't
like,
keep punching.
No, but it didn't look like the one chick, the one that got her eye cut open, had knockout power. And then the other chick was like, they're like, she likes to lead with her head. And I'm like, the only way that you can lead with your head is if people can't knock out people. You know?
You get a real thick skull.
Like,
somebody's going to dig you up in 100 million years and be like, what species is this?
I said, she was Irish. I was like, she's probably had 6 pints of Guinness before that fight even starts.
Yeah, and even after when she was talking, I was like, it sounds like you lead with your head for sure.
Yeah. If I was a boxer, that's absolutely not how I would want my style described. As the leads with the head. Well, Just got a glass chin.
Joe Rogan has said this many times about boxing, and I always think it's so crazy. Is like UFC, if you get knocked out, like if you get knocked down, then the fight's over, and that's as it should be. But in boxing, they give you 10 seconds to get up and recover. And you're like, that just seems like a bad idea for the brain.
Yeah, I don't think it's good, that's for sure.
Have you run into like any Wolverines by chance? Or...
I have not. I feel like if I did, I feel like Wolverines isn't really an animal that you run into and get to go on a podcast about it. Wolverines are pretty intense as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I had well, I shouldn't say had. I have a friend. He he lives up in Fernie now, but he was
Oh, yeah.
all into like wildlife conservation, and he did his whole dissertation on wolverines. But the hard part was
Well done, Derek.
finding wolverines.
Yeah,
As you
yeah.
can
They're pretty elusive from what I understand.
I think they're elusive, and like you said, I don't think there's something that's like the reason they're elusive is I think that they're so pissed off if you get around them, they'll make you leave right away.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't. We have the company I work for. We have a couple of sites that are like way northern BC, and also in the Yukon and Alaska. But yeah, I haven't been up there yet. But I'm hoping to not really come across any wolverines. That would be ideal. For
That's
me.
fair. That's
I-
yeah.
And that's coming from an Australian. Like,
Yeah.
give me snakes, give me spiders, give me sharks.
Maybe
But
kangaroos.
yeah, kangaroos. Are
Well,
fine,
what is
they're
it?
Oh, I
Because
love me
the
kangaroo.
difference between a honey badger and a wolverine is I'm pretty sure nothing. Like there's literal differences, but I think they're both the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but it seems like they have the same
They-
reputation.
Yeah, and I just remember I was watching this video in South Africa of this guy as this like wildlife preserve, and it's all the animals are rescue and they all like get along and they're all chill, and there's a honey badger, and he's like, the honey badger's messed.
Honey badgers are
He's like, the
assholes.
honey badger's messed up. He literally runs this place, and what he had was a rock in the very middle of a compound with just super high walls, and the guy was like, yeah, so he used to dig under the walls, so he had to put concrete like down into the ground so he couldn't dig under them, and then we'd give him a stick and he'd use the one stick somehow to scale the walls, so it's just this honey badger and it's just lying on a rock. And then he's like, yeah, and anytime it gets out it torment the other animals, and so he lets it out. Right away it starts chasing after a rhino, and the rhino starts running away, and he goes, yeah, it goes straight for the balls.
Honey badger's just basically anything on site.
It's just pissed. But I've also heard that from a lot of people about mooses too. Not that they're honey badgers, but they're extremely agitated animals always.
Yeah, I don't know about always, but I've heard that when they get into their mating season, the males, when they get into their rut, they basically just have like a blood vendetta against anything with a pulse. You know, and I believe it, man.
Yeah.
That's like a 2-ton animal. It's
And I feel like when you're very like what is it? Not sedentary. By yourself a lot, because
Solitary?
because I think they're solitary
males,
animals.
yeah.
I feel like the second you chance to get like any woman around you, you're just being like, oh, I'm pissed. It's
I
just
mean, I've seen some pretty metal pictures of moose in the rut where like the velvet or whatever it is comes off their antlers, and it's just like bloody skin hanging down next to their heads.
and
Like,
then their eyes are like bloodshot.
super metal animals.
Do you know I was
You're
nearly...
muted.
No, I just unmuted myself. Nice try.
Damn it.
I actually...
It's actually a red sticker, not a red light.
I nearly had death by moose
Really?
one time.
Damn.
So I don't know if you know the story. Over COVID, one of my best friends moved back to her hometown of High Level, Alberta, which is like way up there, like on the border of Northwest Territories up there. So I drove there, 16-hour drive from here to there.
Damn.
Through the Rockies. And I had a shitty car. It was a Nissan Murano.
You said it was a shitty car.
It was a shitty car.
It's not a Tesla.
It was an old ass Nissan Murano.
Wait, Derek, before our soccer game on Tuesday, there was kids' high school football practice going on, and there was a Tesla Cybertruck parked at Casa Graham. And I was just standing there, and I was just trying not to laugh at it, and then James showed up, and I was like, what, you didn't want to park next to the Cybertruck? And he goes, what Cybertruck? And I pointed at it, and he turns around, and he started laughing.
It's funny you say that.
Sorry, Neve should finish her
It's funny
story.
you
but-
say that because I was in West Bend going to Ambleside with the dog, and I pulled up right. I'd seen Cybertrucks, but I actually was at a light next to one. I swear it's a troll, dude. There's no way.
It has to be.
Like,
How is that worth $100,000 US?
And then the fact that it looks like when you're looking at it, it looks like you're watching like an N64 graphics. You're like, everything looks like real life, and then there's this random truck.
Yeah, like PS1 Hagrid. You ever see that guy? Sorry, Neve, go on.
Okay, so I was driving back through Jasper.
That's enough shitting on the richest man in the world.
What a pussy.
Wouldn't even fight Mark Zuckerberg.
Did you actually see the picture of them all in the jet on the way to
Eating their McDonald's?
Eating their McDonald's.
JFK Jr. having the worst day of his life.
This is why you brought me on.
He's all about, like, what is it, like,
Hell.
taking fluoride out of the water and anti-vaccines, and he's Donald Trump's forcing him to eat a Big Mac.
Do you know what I found funniest about that? Donald Trump had a fillet of fish.
Fish,
I was like,
yeah.
Classic. I was like, how did am I
and a
not
Diet
surprised?
Coke.
Yeah. I
He's
just
a
want to
filet fish
PSA: if you're drinking Diet Coke, you've already lost the battle.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm driving back through Jasper by myself. I've been driving for like 13 hours already at this point. And it's pitch black, and I'm speeding because I always do. And
Bold admission to the nation's biggest podcast audience.
and I'm looking, and it's like it's pitch black, and when you're in Jasper, there's no light, right? You're in the middle of a freaking national park, and I'm looking in front of me, and I'm like, why the fuck has that idiot in front of me not got his lights on? I'm like, I think it's a brown car in front of me. I'm like, why has he not got his lights on? And then I'm like, I'm getting closer to this car, and it doesn't seem to be moving. And then, like, as I get closer, I just see the legs, and I'm like, fuck. And I literally had to, like, swerve so hard. Nua was in the back of the car. She slams onto, like, the window.
That explains a lot of Nua.
And I'm like, and it was so fast, because I was probably going, what?
180.
Like, let's say, no, like, I was probably going, like, 90 and a 60.
That's not
Because
fast.
you can only drive at 60 in the... No, that's the same trip that I got caught speeding twice in 2 different provinces, though. So.
That's a good effort.
She
What did
tried.
you learn from that?
Go faster. Don't get caught.
If you're going over 300, speed cameras can't capture you. License plate. That's not true, kids at home.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I heard a
what I did
geologist
learn-
told me.
Is that Alberta used to have a really poor system of paying their tickets.
Yeah,
'cause
that
you
was
couldn't pay a
so
ticket
dumb.
without an Alberta ID, so
No.
I ended up with an arrest. I ended up with an arrest warrant.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I was
I
gonna say,
remember
you know
that.
this. Yeah. It's cleared now.
Well, that's
Maybe
actually the
it's
crazy
just
thing about moose, though. For those that don't know, I feel like if you've grown up in Canada, you should know this. But the reason that they're so deadly to hit, I mean, all animals are
'Cause they're
dangerous to
all
hit,
body.
but they're so high up that you hit their skinny little legs out, and then you have a 1,000 or 1,500 pound
Coming through your
animal right
windshield.
through
Yeah,
your
just coming
windshield.
through your windshield. Yeah.
I remember you called
hit a
me
moose,
right
you're dead.
after
And
that.
I was so shook up. So we weren't even like
We had
dating
just
at
been
the time.
hooking
We'd
up.
just been kind of hooking up and
She
seeing
calls
each
me, and I was
other.
like, "So."
And I was like actually like
What's
so
up?
scared, like I was shaking. I had to pull into a garage and like use the bathroom.
And I was like playing it cool. I was just like,
It
"Yo,
beat
go
myself
back
a
there and
little
hit it harder." And she's like, "What?" And I was like,
Double tap.
"Double tap that
bit.
bitch."
Genuinely, I was like, that was like a life flash before your moment. Like I didn't even reflex.
I had when we were going to what's it called, to Campbell River with your parents.
Yeah.
We picked her dad up from the airport at like 10:30, and then ended up going to the island and going across and getting to Campbell River. So it was a late night, and like 2-3 in the morning. The single lane as you get like outside of like it's like I can't even remember where it is, but you're following along. It's single lane part of the highway, so it's like closer to Campbell River. And I just see some woman's like hazards on, but she had just flicked them on. Like we're driving, and she's like, let's say like 200 meters ahead of me, and I just see her flick them on, and I go, what the hell? And then sure enough, as we both drive by, she'd hit a deer. And I always just think like that's the only thing you don't really expect when you're driving at night. Like I've driven so much at night all over BC and shit like that, so I know you have to be cognizant for deer. But if you're going for so long, I feel like it's almost impossible to actually truly be just like looking around all the time.
It's hard to be that alert for that long.
I'll tell you what. When I was at university in Southampton, there's this place called the New Forest. I've taken Derek there, and it's this. It used to be the Queen's hunting grounds.
Oh yeah.
So it's all this like fenced off wild lands, and there's wild horses there. So you have to be super slow when you're driving. But when I was in university, I had a little white Citroen 2-person van.
Nice.
And we used to load the back of the van up with like duvets and blankets, and we used to drive out into the middle of the forest, open the doors, smoke a couple joints, you know, chat shit, whatever. So I'm driving down this, and it's an old ass country road, and I'm so stoned, and all of a sudden, like, white horse, and I'm like, shit, did I just see a ghost? Like, what the fuck happened? Slam on the brakes. Didn't hit it, but it was still very scary.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of like driving in Australia. Kangaroos are like that. So you'll be, you know, in Australia you can drive for 3 days in a straight line,
Yeah.
and not go anywhere. But kangaroos are kind of like that, where, you know, you either catch them at the bottom of a bounce or at the top of a bounce.
Oh.
If you catch them at the bottom of a bounce, they go straight through your engine block, and there goes your car.
Yeah.
If you catch them at the top of the bounce, then they'll go straight through your windscreen, and there goes your life.
Jesus.
So my wife, Cleo, her favorite animal is a kangaroo. She loves them. And when she first moved out to Australia to live with us for, I don't know, we were out there for 9 or 10 months. I went to pick her up at the airport, and North American flights come in at like first thing in the morning, because Sydney airport has a curfew. So the first flights can't come in until 6 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So where I lived, I was house sitting for a mate, and it's like an hour and 45-minute drive from the airport. So I had to leave at like, I don't know, like 4:30 in the morning, pitch black, you know, whatever. And I'm driving along the road. I'm doing like, I don't know, 70 and a 60, something like that.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not quite as hardcore as you, Neve, but
Yeah, well, not many people are.
that's fair. But I'm driving along, and next thing I know, this little brown shape comes hopping into my headlights. And I was lucky I caught him at the bottom of the bounce, and I'd managed to brake, so I only hit him doing about 30. And so this kangaroo that was like fully crouched down just did like this straight line slide up the road in front of me for like 20 yards, and then just kept hopping up into the woods. So I'm like, oh my God, I just ran over her favorite animal going to pick her up at the airport. Oh shit, I've never even hit anything before. Like, 20 years of living here, but
That's like, that's what that
She's
is.
like, what is this fleshy stuff on the car? You're like, not a kangaroo.
it wasn't even my car. It was my mate's mum's car that I was house sitting for. Sorry, Roz.
She's like, I always wondered how I got that in.
It's all right. She loves me. But
God, I love animals. I think
Yeah.
animals are the coolest thing.
I like them with salt and pepper. No, I'm just kidding. I don't eat a lot of meat.
We always threaten Nuo. Our dog Nuo, for the listeners, is a blue healer, Australian
really
cattle
annoying,
dog.
but
We
we love
always
her.
threaten her, and we say we're gonna have blue healer tacos.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she misbehaves, we're
Aw.
cooking her into
And
tacos.
it was awkward because we just found out she's obese. So like we were like, we're gonna fatten you up and eating tacos. And then she's like, the vet was like, your dog's obese, and I was like, oh shit, maybe she thinks we are fattening her up.
Oh, man.
Sweet girl.
Yeah, it's alright. We told Julia we're gonna eat baby toes as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
but
She lives in fear.
she
Just,
does.
sorry, on that note, I'm going to swing us back around to geology.
Yes, please. Yeah.
There's a new thing. I don't know how much longer you want to keep chatting about it, but
Keep going.
there's a new thing where you can try and fossilize yourself. So, you know, people are always coming up with like new ways to die,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So there's this process whereby you can... So the way fossils are made basically is you have to die somewhere where there's not a lot of bacteria.
Okay.
So think about like the deep ocean, or like under a bunch of mud, or like in the
Yeah.
desert. And you have to be buried quickly,
Okay.
right? So that all of your, like your skin and your muscles and your soft tissues are preserved, not just your
Yeah.
bones. So there's this company that's come out, and they bury you in a coffin full of like clean sand,
Oh.
or clean sand, or like really fine sand, like material, so it preserves as much detail as possible. And the coffin is designed to last a certain amount of time, but they'll bury you in a specific location that they think, you know, I mean, we're talking on a scale like millions of years here, but
Yeah.
they think over time the coffin will degrade, and the material around the sand you've been buried in will just kind of keep you in a little,
Coffin.
kind of like a little pocket where you can form like a concretion.
Yeah.
And eventually over time, like, you'll just become fossilized with as much detail preserved as possible.
Cool.
Would you do it?
Absolutely not. That's terrifying.
I would.
But I just want
wanna
to be cremated.
mummified.
I'd want to know how.
wanna be
I'd want. It
buried.
depends on my age. Let's say I died tomorrow. It'd be cool because then they'd like come out. They'd be like, "Oh, this young, handsome, sculpted statue." But imagine you do it at like 90, and everyone's like, "Oh God, this should have just stayed in the ground."
Right? No, man, I'm kind of torn. Like, half of me wants to be like cremated, so it's not really a hassle. The other half of me wants to be like taxidermied.
Oh wow! I was
Just like
Yeah.
keep me in the family home.
never
Just
throw
remember,
me
kids, Grandpa's always watching. I
Do you think you could actually taxidermy a person?
think there's probably a bunch of legalities around
out.
it.
Yeah, like
yeah,
I'm sure you
apart from
I'm
that.
sure you literally could.
But I know a guy, like I lived in West Virginia for 2 years. I know a guy who could absolutely do me like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, for sure.
just
He-
pointing hard and angry, just.
Yeah, I won't call him out by name because I wouldn't do him like that. But he has a couple of raccoon skin caps that he made himself.
Cool.
And he showed me this bag of like, they look kind of like mini versions of like wands from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. Like they're all different colors, all different sizes and
Yeah.
lengths and circumference and that kind of thing. And he goes, guess what these are. I had no idea. Like I knew he trapped and preserved animals and did all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like some kind of bone. And he's like, you're closer than you think. It's a bag of preserved animal penises.
Oh.
And I was like,
man.
what? And then he starts telling me all the different animals and he got them off. And he's like, this one's a raccoon, this one's a fox, this one's a fisher cat, this one's like a skunk, this one's a bear. And I was like, what?
I don't
So-
know who this guy is. but-
serial killer vibes.
No,
No,
he's a super
no,
cool
no,
guy.
no. I respect people that have passions.
Back full of animal dicks doing it for you.
As long as it doesn't harm others.
But they were preserved, so they were hard. They were like they were like sticks.
Wait, you got to get me in touch with this guy.
like little like pepperoni.
How did he do this?
No, more like pencils. Because animal penises are kind of strange.
Yeah, they always are. They,
Yeah.
You always are a little thrown off. Like,
You don't have to tell me.
okay.
Can you edit so that silence stays in?
Yeah,
Hey, don't let the AI remove that one.
We don't have it yet. Yeah, you're trying your best. You're trying your best.
The Palace Princess, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, one day you have to take me to the palace.
Oh, I want to take you to the palace so bad.
I have a feeling I'd show up and be like, I'm not going in.
You walk up and, how long has it been since you lived in the UK?
Oh, it's 6 years.
Yeah, so you walk up and everyone's like, oh, hey, Neve.
Yeah.
Hey, Neve. Hey, Neve. How's it going? Oh, hey, Neve. Long
Palace
time no see.
princess. Some chick's like, fuck you came back, I knew it, you bitch. Losing it right away.
I've been in many a fight.
So,
in that club.
so yeah, outside of the taxidermy self, I personally wouldn't have gone the taxidermy route. Again, you teach their own. I'm torn between, so I like the idea of like, I don't know, like from ashes we came kind of thing. Like you go back out into the universe and become part of it, or like the planet and then inevitably the universe. So I think that's cool. Another thought I've had is I thought it'd be cool. They cremate you and then put you with a seed and you become a tree.
That's a good one.
But then my only fear with that is, what if a soul is real, and what happens if your soul gets
you'd be so
implanted in a
bored.
seed, and then you're the oldest living tree, and you're just like, God damn it, I'm a tree, and you're like just like all this.
What happens when people eat your fruit? Are they tearing your soul apart?
Yeah, well, I hope that. See, this is why I don't want to do it. Like, I think it's a cool idea until you do the other side. Imagine that everyone just turns into a tree, and then you have to watch everything, and you're just like, no.
You know what else is an option is they can, if you get cremated, they can take the carbon from your ashes and make you into a diamond.
I can make you into a rock.
Yeah, no, but like
Even better.
imagine in like 200 years time.
Yeah.
Your great grandchild is proposing to their fiance and like, here, this is my grandfather. And his fiance's like, this is your grandfather's ring. He's like, this is literally
This is
Grandpappy.
him.
This is don't lose him.
I mean, I'd be pretty swept off my feet.
I am also.
But where's the child slave labor, Derek?
I don't know why I assumed that they'd throw me into the mud and this child would dig me up or something. Little both.
Getting touched by a minor one last time.
Oh. I thought this was a family-friendly
I did
show.
too.
It's not.
There's so many offside things you could have said, and that was what came out.
It works on 2 levels. Anyway, I'm torn between mummification
Okay.
and a Viking burial, where they
So
send
like
you
they
off
put you on a
the-
boat and someone shoots a fiery arrow at you.
Yeah, I think both would be pretty equally good. I already have the canopic jars for the
You do. I
mummification.
see that.
So,
I see that.
yeah.
Very British of you to have Egyptian shit in your non-Egyptian house.
You know, we take things that aren't ours.
Believe it or not, that's the
That's what we
actual
do.
papyrus.
That's actually, those are all straight from Egypt.
Nice.
The Egyptians pronounced Egypt.
I paid for them. I didn't just, snatch them.
Oh, I assumed. Yeah, I assumed. Yeah, you paid someone a very reasonable glass bead for that.
Yeah, good times.
I mean, it's called a good business deal if you trick people and take their stuff, isn't it? Yeah, that actually would be pretty cool. I actually think I would be. I don't know. I don't love myself that much.
You could be someone's earring, dude.
No, I'd be more into that than the original understanding of like fossilizing yourself. I just feel like you have to really, really like be into yourself to be like, no, like someone will preserve me and someone will find me in a million years.
Well, I guess kind of related to that is like, how would you feel being one of like the Pompeii casts?
Oh yeah,
right. Because those people, like, they didn't choose that to be the way they were preserved. They just kind of died in a horrific event. Mm-hmm. But like, I think it's kind of cool. You know, like there's that one guy who was preserved having a wank.
Yeah,
like
actually,
the volcano's exploding, and the guy's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna die. Why not rub one out for old time's sake?" And that's how we found his body.
Yeah. Okay. I'm way more interested in Pompeii than I was before.
But yeah, of course, I had to pick the least wholesome one. Yeah. Like, there's also like a husband and wife and like an embrace.
Yeah, like cuddling and
that's so unrealistic. Though that's staged. That one's a staged run. Oh no, the world's ending. My family, or oh no, the world's ending.
I think it's cool until your family have to pay like millions for it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's going to be hella expensive to get yourself fossilized. You know what I mean? And you're dead, so like you weren't going to use that money.
That's true.
But Pompeii, naturally occurring, kind of a win-win situation. You die and you get preserved. Yeah. Awesome.
So you just like take your loved ones to Hawaii and just wait.
Yeah, just for a really long time. It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's actually a weird thought because you are like, would you want to be? I'm just trying to.
I mean, I want to live a full and natural life.
But the thought is though, okay, like really the thing is, when you die, do you want to become part of like this history as a spectacle? Like obviously it doesn't matter to you because you're gone, but how would you feel alive? And I don't know. I don't think I'd want to have that to be, because I hope that once I'm dead and gone, minus like a gravestone for my like kin to go be sad or like see me. I would prefer that after that I'm just gone, not preserved.
I'm just like, stick me in a cardboard box and burn me. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll be dead. Who cares?
That's fair.
Well,
not me.
There's a part of me that, and I'm gonna bring this back to rocks again, but like, part of my whole thing about liking rocks is like, I have right in front of me here fossil ferns that are 50 some million years old, and I still look at these things on my coffee table and I'm like, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that is an elegant piece of nature that, you know, maybe no conscious eyes would have ever seen again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rock. It's been a rock for 50 some million years. Like, it hasn't been a plant for even a fraction of the time that it's been a rock. And here I am appreciating it on my coffee table. I think that's pretty beautiful, man.
That is,
absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I honestly think that's actually some nice words to leave this on. Yeah. Alec, thank you for coming on. This has been really fun.
Of course, Derek, it's been a pleasure.
You'll have to come back
with you guys.
Yeah, well, you'll have to come back on again, whether it be rocks or just to chat. It's been great.
I would love to. Thank you, man.
See y'all.